We have a mystery on our hands this week. The scholars in this room are the crew of the mighty ship, the Envisioneer. While in search of an ancient treasure, we were marooned on an island, and a key part of our map went missing. Of the entire crew, we considered 4 suspects. Today, we will hear evidence against Dr. Smart and Shipwright Neff.
Hi, we are the medical examination team A, and we are explaining emergency medicine. The reason we had to do this is because some of our crewmates were experiencing sprained and fractured bones. The first splint that we learned in class is the cervical splint that goes around your neck. The second splint that we learned is the sugar tongue splint that goes around your arm. And the third and final one is the figure of 8s that goes around your ankle.
The first splint that we learned is the cervical splint. When doing the cervical splint, you must make sure that the chin is supported and the neck has a hard time moving. That way your patient does not get more injured than they already are. The second splint that we learned is the sugar tongue splint. It supports your forearm and elbow. When making the sugar tongue splint, you must make sure there is no room between the elbow and the actual splint. The last splint that we made is the figure of 8 splint. This splint is created by wrapping a splint in the form of an 8 around your ankle and heel. When wrapping, you must make sure it is tight enough so that the splint does not fall off and the patient cannot move their ankle.
We made a model lung because one of our crewmates were experiencing collapsed lung, which is when there's one or more holes in your lungs. This can you can find it hard to breathe, and symptoms may include shortness of breath, hard time breathing, and wheezing.
We made the model lung by taking a cup and with a hole in the bottom and sticking a straw inside the hole. We tied this balloon around the hole, the straw, and we put some clay around the straw. Then we took this balloon and we put it on the open side. This straw represents the trachea, this balloon represents the lung, and this balloon represents the diaphragm.
Hello, we are the engineering specialist team. We built the M-Bot because we were trying to locate our crew in the ancient treasure on the island. We built the M-Bot by using one chassis and 2 motors and screwing the 2 motors inside the chassis. And then at the end we attached the brain and connected all the wiring so that the M-Bot was able to move through the island in terrain us humans can't handle.
We programmed the robot by going into a programming app, and there are blocks that you can click into place, and they can make the robot move, flashlights, and make sound.
We made a truss bridge to deliver the food to the island because there was a flood there.
We used straws to make a triangular bridge structure, paper clips to hold the straws, and paper tape for the floor. We put paper on the straws and then taped the paper to the straws. We used a triangle-shaped structure because it's sturdier and can hold more weight.
Hello, we are the Medical Examiner B crew, and I'll be talking about the main parts of the heart. There is the right ventricle, left ventricle, right atrium, left atrium, pulmonary vein, vena cava, pulmonary artery, and the aorta. In this activity, we learned about the different parts of the heart. Example, blood goes out of the pulmonary artery to go to the lungs and get oxygen. Then it comes back in through the pulmonary vein. The reason why we did this is because one of our deckhands was feeling highly fatigued and unable to work.
Today I will be telling you about blood clots. Blood clots happen when fat builds up in the blood channels. This can lead to a heart attack. You can prevent this from happening by eating healthy and exercising.
Today we're presenting snake bites. We learned about 4 different kinds of snakes. There is the Malayan pit viper, king cobra, red-tailed green rat snake, and banded crepe. Neurotoxic venom affects the nerves. Hemotoxic venom affects the blood. It also causes blood clots that can lead to heart attacks.
We are doing an experiment that when we add lemon juice to milk represents blood, and the lemon juice represents venom. When the lemon juice and the milk turn together, it turns thick. This is important to the case because it shows what can happen to your blood when you get a bite. This is what it looks like. Since there's the milk just turns very light and chunky from the lemon juice getting into it. The reason why we were doing snake bites is because Sydney Young had gotten a snake bite. She went to go see Dr. Smart. He said she had a neurotoxic bite, and she was losing her mind by saying Neff kidnapped her. And then they figured out she had a hemotoxic bite, and Dr. Smart lied. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Splatter analysis group, and we'd like to talk to you about how we did our blood splatter analysis. We did this because we were trying to find out whose cut matched the splat on the floor. We measured from 3 heights: 66 inches, 30 inches, and 12 inches. Smart had a cut on his hand, Robert had a cut on his head, and Sydney had a cut on her shin.
After we measured the heights, as a class, we each got a piece of evidence. We measured the diameter of the blood splatter, and we found out that the crime was from 30 inches. So then we started suspecting the suspects. We suspected that Smart, because his cut was on the hand, and that was from 30 inches, or it could have been Neff, because Neff had bent over, and it was his blood.
Hi, we are the forensic scientists, and this is my portion of this presentation. First, the reason that we did this experiment is because there was a mystery substance on the floorboards of the ship. First, we got dishes of the powders, and we used a dropper to drop iodine and vinegar into the powders and tested to see what the reactions would be. And we also tested the appearance, texture, smell, and reaction to vinegar and iodine. We figured out that the mystery substance was cornstarch. The reason because it is a neutral substance and it has to be safe for the skin, and it is used for sunburns and rashes.
This is my portion of the project on fingerprinting. The reason I'm doing this is because there were fingerprints found at the scene, and we had to use a brush to dust the fingerprints, and they turned out that the fingerprints were Worrell's and belonged to Shipwright Neff and Dr. Smart.
Based on all the evidence our STEM group has submitted, we believe that Dr. Smart and Shipwright Neff are guilty of stealing the ancient map.